Okay, we are live.
Thank you, Yash. So, welcome everyone to Meshery's development meeting. And this is weekly meeting that happens every Wednesday, where we talk about all the PRs issues that are being worked on in Meshery project, like what its future roadmap looks like, and what were the recent changes that were done by contributors. So, hopefully today too, we also have a couple of agenda items that we talk. But before that, let me introduce Meshery. So Meshery is one of the projects that the Layer 5 community stewards and is also 10th largest CNCF project. So you can check that out. I'm sure Deepak or Yash will be dropping the link in chat. Using Meshery, you can collaboratively design, deploy, and operate your cloud-native infrastructure. And we have a couple of systems where you can get access for free and explore what features Meshery has to offer, whether or like respective of you want to learn cloud-native concepts or you just want to empower your DevOps team. So Meshery Playground and Mesh Map, they do well to demonstrate what Meshery has to offer. I'll be putting links to these systems in chat shortly after we get started. But yeah, that was about Meshery. So before we take on these topics, let me once again share this docs link in chat for those of you who have recently joined to write your name in the attendees list. Also, like if you have any item related to Meshery or if you just have any query, you also can mention those in the docs itself, and we'll be sure to take those items. Yeah, so now is the time for us to follow our tradition, and that is all the newcomers on the call, they get the chance to introduce themselves. You can talk about how did you, come to know about the community and whether or not you are working on any item. If not, then we'll make sure that you do. So, like, do we have any newcomer on the call today? I'm taking a look at the participants list, and I'll just simply ask, Jeremy, like, is it the first time that you're joining development call? If yes, do you mind giving your intro?
No, it's not my first time. It's the second time.
Thank you for confirming. I think it's first time for Jayant Joshi, who is on call.
Sir, I think you have got some wrong information. I am joining it from last week.
Okay, so like, is it not the first time that you're joining Meshery development meeting?
No, sir.
Once again, thank you. So I think we don't have any newcomers today on call. But if we do, make sure you introduce yourself in the chat. Yeah, I think I'll also ask Senthil. So Senthil, like, once again, are you new to the call?
Well, not exactly, but having introduced myself. Okay, let me introduce myself. Myself, Sindhil. I'm a finance student at Metro School of Technology. I do love the front end and the front end parts like UI, UX crafting, and especially I have interest in the DevOps, Kubernetes, and Prometheus and Grafana. I found Meshery is one of the fastest growing open source project, and it's because of the Layer 5 community. So I'm I would like to enhance my skills, DevOps skills, by contributing to the Meshery project. Yeah,
That's awesome. So
that's all about it.
Thank you for introduction. And I see you also have an item to share today, and that's just fantastic. So thank you, Senthil. And once again, I'll remind you all to be sure to write your name in the attendees. And so here we goes with the topics. But before that, let me just stress that please be sure to write your full name in the Zoom's participant list. So that's always helpful to distinguish many folks who are having similar names. So yeah. Yeah, all right. So let's carry on with the topics. And the first topic is from Shubham about fixed pattern API for local provider. So I'll just take a look if we have Shubham on call. Looks like we don't. So Deepak, do you mind putting a reminder in the Slack for Shubham? If he wishes to join, then we can take his item.
Yeah, sure.
I can speak on his behalf. I was collaborating with him. You can open the PR.
Yeah, please take the stage.
Yeah, you can open the PR. It's a small change.
All
So
right,
so actually there were some issues coming in the local provider for the pattern and the filter API. So the part of Shubham making effort is to make sure that uh, those APIs are fixed so that in the local provider, if you open the design space in the filter space, you are able to see designs and filters. So there were some issues coming because of wrong initialization of the query. And I think Shubham make sure that we fix that and it is approved and launched. If
Looks
there
like he
is any
did,
option.
yeah, looks like he did, incorporate those changes. So thank you, Yash. So yeah, I'll wait for 5 to 10 seconds for any potential feedback on this item. If not, you can take a look at the PR in the chat using the link that is in chat. So yeah, let's wait for 5 to 10 seconds. All right, so thank you for collaborating with Shubham and getting it done, Yash. So we'll be moving ahead. And then next item is from Kenneth. So do we have Kenneth on call? Yeah, so I happen to remember, so it's Chenemy.
Yes,
So Chenemy, do you mind? Yeah,
yes,
go ahead.
I'm on the call.
Yep. So you can start sharing your screen and talk about the changes that you have done and what was the ask.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Just give me a minute, please.
Maybe circle back.
Yeah. So let us signal when you are ready, so we can circle back to your item, Chenemy.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So then next up we have item from Chris on integrating Regal linter. So do we have Chris on call?
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, so I have a couple PRs here. I can share my screen. You see my screen?
Yep, we do.
Okay, so the first item I had is a PR that I prepared for a blog post for the new designs landing in Artifact Hub. So I know the change landed to actually deploy those packages, deploy those designs to Artifact Hub. So we're actually seeing, I think it's about 170 designs up on Artifact Hub. So I have to come back here and the screenshots, this is just a placeholder until those were up there. So I have to replace the screenshot and go through and at the very least update dates and things like that, because I started this blog post just last week or the week before. So update the dates for when it would get published. So I guess one is anyone who wants to review the blog post and just give any feedback on just the normal stuff, feel free, and I can factor that in. But maybe a question I had is, I know there's some refinements we want to do for the metadata that we're creating for Artifact Hub. Some of the descriptions are a little kind of wonky right now. Do we want to wait until those changes land before we publish a blog post like this? Just I guess a timing question of what we want to have ready before this goes live.
Yeah. Well, it might be that there are a couple of designs up there right now that do have formatting that's all right. And it might be that the hyperlinked examples happen to point to those two.
Sure.
If they're, and I suspect there's a hyperlink in there that points out that you can search for and view all Meshery designs. So it wouldn't, it wouldn't take someone very long to stumble upon one that maybe has some improper formatting. For my vote, either way, for me, I could. A quick question though, since I've chimed in, I wonder if there isn't an opportunity in this blog post to or if it wasn't done in the prior blog post already, to be able to instruct people on the ways by which they can get their own, the ways by which they can get their Meshery design into Artifact Hub, and whatever method that might be, or however detailed or not detailed that might get described. But perhaps any which way it might be, or something that we want to encourage. So something that we want to unleash, or unleash people to be able to do.
Sure. And that makes sense. Yeah, I can spend a little bit of time on that, like action-based things, like things for people to read this and then potentially go do. So that makes sense.
Yeah. That totally. I mean, it also can make sense. I think it makes sense both ways, that you might end up, I don't know, if you really dug your heels in, it might be that there's a short page or a short section within an existing page in Meshery docs that explains the functionality of the tools, describing the fact that there's native compatibility with or native facilitation for publishing to Artifact Hub, and as a function of the tool, like as a feature of Meshery, here's the doc that describes that. And so the blog post might regurgitate it in a summary, might point people to it, but there might be a twofer in there, or there might be, like, to the extent that you end up putting in any amount of time trying to articulate that in this blog post, you might take one step further and get even more long-term value out of that material by putting it into the. Now, actually, now that I've said this, I'm realizing, gosh, maybe at this exact moment in time, if Dayang was on, she could help remind me, and maybe Yash or Uzair. Like right now, when Meshery prepares a design for publication to Artifact Hub, well, Chris is right here, so you might also remember. I just don't recall. I recall that one of the processes that we run, that Meshery runs to help prepare those designs, occurs in a workflow in the Meshery.io repo. Great, in it, great. Now, reflecting on my suggestion that, maybe, this is a feature of Meshery, so, maybe there should be a Meshery docs page, or just a part of a page that describes this. It's like, well, wait a second. Has that process, has that capability been internalized? Like I'm familiar with the fact that it's running external, but does anybody else recall if it has been internalized just yet as part and parcel to the fact that anytime you export a Meshery design as an OCI image, does Meshery automatically include that Artifact Hub artifact?
Yes, that has been included. So every time you export as OCI, you get an Artifact Hub package along with the design.
Nice. And so for someone like Mr. Carrier, who might go familiarize even more with that, explore it, poke it, make sure it works, stuff like that, as he were to perform that function in Meshery to verify that OCI image that downloads, that's just a tar GZ. So if he were to unzip that, he would expect to see two files,
two files.
Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So
I'll run through that and just verify that it works as we all expect, and then I can factor that into, like you're saying, the documentation, and then link to that from the blog.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Maybe by the time this gets maybe I know Deepak has got a few more to publish, so maybe we'll hit that 200 mark so we can. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, good round number.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all helpful. I have one other item I can talk about if we're good on this for now.
It's good to me.
Going once, twice. Cool. So the other thing that I was looking at is, so we've talked about kind of factoring the Regal linter into the, I think the idea was basically to have it in the build so that any policies are getting verified before, maybe as part of pull requests, basically enforce linting policies against RICO policies. So as I started to kind of look at that, kind of realized that the existing policies weren't passing the linter. So I started to I picked one policy and I started to work through the just the errors that were returned by the linter. And this is all kind of been a learning process for me. I didn't come in too familiar with RICO policies. So it's basically just going through item by item and learning what the rules were telling me and then fixing it. And as a result, my goal was to have a policy that was the same as functionally the same. But this on the right with these changes now passes the linter. My question then is basically like in terms of regression testing and making sure that as these are changed, nothing breaks. Does anyone have any guidance on maybe this policy and specifically, or I don't know, any guidance on how I make sure that as I'm fixing things from a linting point of view, I'm not accidentally breaking anything from a functionality point of view?
Yeah, in a sense, you actually, as you go to test relationships, I think largely the same procedure that you might be using, that's at least one way for Chris to verify that the functionality of these rules remains the same. Innocent, do you have a process for that? Or do we have a doc on that?
No, I don't have.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Well, that sounds like an opportunity for us to write one. Does anybody else want to answer this question before I do?
Yeah, so please. So you can run Meshery server locally and try to go into MeshMap extension. And for example, in this PR, you are trying with namespace discovery relationship policy. So you can grab a bunch of namespaces and some other components which can be placed inside namespace and verify that when you drag a particular component inside the namespace, the namespace are updated in context of the parent node. So this is a straightforward test, directly using the relationship inside MeshMap.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So just, Chris, I don't know if is it helpful if are you 100% clear or?
I think I'm 100% clear on the sentiment there, which is basically like mess around with namespaces and try to see if something unexpected happens. It's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'll also reinforce the notion that this is one of those areas that there's some areas of Meshery that you can modify and change, and if you can take that modification and import it into a running Meshery or change the code of a running Meshery server, and you'll see it reflected and great. And the developer experience is somewhat convenient in that way. In this, yeah, so actually, Uzair, we do have the ability to dynamically load policy, although I don't know that this still needs to be pre-compiled at the same time that Meshery server is compiled. Is that right?
Yes.
Even though in the future that wouldn't necessarily be the case?
No, so because we don't have a ability to send the updated policy or import a policy, so that's why as Meshery server compiles, we need that the policy is up to date. But as we support import, we will not require to restart or recompile Meshery server.
Yep. And so now I'm confused. So I thought we had the ability for each individual relationship to identify a specific policy that it wanted to be loaded and considered.
Yes, that is present. But for example, while Meshery server is running, you
you fix some of the lint tests, for example. So you need to like restart Meshery server, like recompile the server.
And part of that recompilation process is Rego compiled?
It's just that the policies are like reloaded, and we can like quickly externalize this process so that there is no need to restart Meshery server. For example, like we can have a import policy endpoint such that you just call that endpoint to like re-import the existing policies or provide a new policy.
Gotcha.
Does this answer?
Yeah, mostly. Well, it sort of sounds like there's almost these two different types of imports that we're referring to. Let me ask you an ignorant question. Is Rego itself compiled before use, or is it
No,
interpreted?
it is interpreted.
Okay. So Meshery server, the way that we've chosen to use Open Policy Agent, OPA, at the moment is that we import OPA as a Golang library, and we write Golang around using that policy engine. When we use the policy engine, the Meshery Golang, Meshery server, looks to a location in Meshery's the running directory and imports interpreted .rego files. So literally the text that Chris is showing. And how is it today that relationships are able to
Identify like which policies to evaluate.
Yeah, and only consider that policy if if we do not currently have the ability to dynamically load and unload Rego.
Okay. So we load all of the policies, and for example, like whenever a request for evaluation comes in, we say we evaluate on every relationship. So we know the kind, type, and subtype. So we internally are able to map like, okay, this is the particular rule that we want to evaluate. So we just send a request that, okay, evaluate only this rule.
Got it. Okay. Yep. So we've been using the words a little loosely, all of us. There's the difference between import or load, unload, like for a given use of Open Policy Agent, loading and unloading Rego policy into that instance, slightly different than something like loading up all of the policy. And at the moment in time, Meshery asks OPA to make an evaluation. In that moment in time, since we have already loaded all available policy, we can also scope that evaluation question.
Yes.
Okay. And so, okay. Now, Chris was actually on a page that talked about WebAssembly for a moment, and
I was wondering if this is relevant to the deployment.
future.
So, yeah, for this particular page that you are in or policy that you edited is not used currently. So this policy was created and compiled to Wasm just for prototyping, like how we will use Wasm inside MeshMap. So this is not being currently used. If you want to like fix the lint errors, like this is like if you fix the lint errors for this, like it is still helpful. But the policies that we actually use are inside like server/mesh model directories.
Okay.
So
cool. Okay. I'll start here, but I'll definitely work through mesh model. Yeah, I'll work through the others as well. This is a starting place. This one seems kind of bite-sized and a good place to start.
Yeah, you might even be able to suggest better variable names than like namespaces.
Sure.
To do that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, linter doesn't catch everything. Okay. So am I hearing right then that this particular policy is not actually used right now? So this maybe the question of like smoke testing and making sure nothing breaking isn't as relevant for this particular one?
yes.
Okay.
Which one would be a good
And so inside Kubernetes, /mesh model /Kubernetes folder, if you find like network edge.reco, so that is the one that we use. So that could be the good one to start with.
So I say it again, it's mesh model slash.
Kubernetes folder.
Uh,
Inside Windows 25.2 folder.
Got it.
So these are the policies that we use to actually use. So if you are editing those things, these policies, so you might need to perform testing.
Perfect. Okay, that makes sense then. Okay, well then I will continue on from this first one I've done and start looking at these more impactful ones and do some testing as I go.
Nice. Yeah, and it would seem, but to finish off my, like, it sounds like there's a couple of near-term steps, none that are urgent, but the location that we keep these policies inside of the repo, do we agree that perhaps at the root level of the repo, there, as of a few days ago, there was a folder called WASM, sort of maybe not the best name. Now that there's a folder called policies, but maybe we might try to centralize some of the Rego policies external to a specific version of
Specific
Kubernetes.
model. Actually, because these policies are not currently, these are not model agnostic, these are model agnostic policies. So if we can place these policies under Meshery core model, so that these policies are evaluated or used for every model, so I think that could also work. And if possible, so other models are also bringing in policies, so those policies will override these common ones.
Yeah. Chris, this is good. This is a healthy review for everybody, including me, sure. And it's there's this idea that these policies here, hopefully they're largely, we want to have as few policies as possible. And that's not because they're inefficient or because because we're lazy. No. It's because it's because they're hard and they take a while and they're going to get bugs and all this stuff. And it's because if we write them intelligently, then there's fewer to maintain. And so if we write some that are rather broad sweeping in nature, capable of performing a broad swath of evaluation, wonderful. At some point, someone's going to, import Cube Armor or any of these models, and they're going to say, whoa, hold on. If Cube Armor is present, then there should be no Kubernetes network let's undo, then these other more global policies should not be considered. There's this concept of inheritance that's inherent to, can I say that in the same sentence? There's this concept of inheritance that's inherent to the way that models are set up, such that just like you might expect, a default behavior from a piece of software. Great, those are the defaults, but not only could you potentially change the defaults, but you can, in a lot of software, you can leave the defaults there, but maybe in a specific area, override them and say, hey, if Cube Armor is present, here's the Rego policies to be used. So it is the intention, I think, that the models here, each of these folders, constitutes a model, constitutes an integration, that when you package up a model and import and export a model, kind of like in OCI, kind of like we do with a design, that tar-gz basically just wraps up each of these folders, and specific Rego policies might be part of that individual models. In this case, these are the ones that are meant to be what, like Uzair said, core or default or global. And even though they are global, my suggestion a moment ago to put them into this policy folder way out at the root level, probably not. Like Uzair's suggestion is more in line with what we've discussed in the past, which is to not treat Meshery's own content as any more special than the rest per se. Like that content, there are shapes that Meshery ships with so that you can draw a circle or what have you. Well, those should be treated, those should be part of the same system. And so, yeah, at some point we would probably want to take these Rego files, move them to the model called Meshery-core. So that's yeah. I don't know. Hopefully that blissfully confuses.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. Well, yeah, I'm happy to keep as I work through this, keep asking questions, and maybe we can keep finding answers and move towards, you know, what you guys are seeing as the next step in terms of how to organize all this.
Yeah, totally. You might even be the guy to do the awesome. It's
Right.
I don't want to. Yeah, we'll see.
Sure. Well, that's the question I had. If there's anything else anybody wants to talk about on this, otherwise I can give up the mic. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Krish, for your update. So going forward, we have item from Senthil. So Senthil, I think, is on call.
Yes.
So do you mind? Yeah. Please go on sharing your update.
Well, I would like to share my screen. Shall I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't able to share my screen. Give me a second.
Try one more time, or we will be sharing back to you like when you're ready.
Maybe could you please click on the PR link? I had attached the Loom also.
Yeah, please go on.
Yeah, the previous the current figure and after one. A little above, yeah, before one. Well, the problem is I have made changes in the client side only in the search bar. The current problem is whenever the user types searches values in the search bar, the API request went out for each letters, which leads to increase the server load as it is visible in the network tab. So I found there is a bug in the debounce mechanism in the search bar. So I implemented a custom hook. You use debouncer to fix the searching functionality. Yeah, you can. Yeah, the after one. If you see, if I enter auto generated, the API request is went for only auto generated only, not went for AUTO generated. In the previous one, if I enter the auto generated, the request call has been made for AUT for every key presses. The request call has been made. That's the problem. So there is little bug in the debouncer mechanism. So I fixed that only.
So something like you fix the debounce issue in Meshy, like the table comes from system. Like if you directly fix the bug there, it would be nice because then all of the tables that use the search mechanism would take the benefit of it. And also, like you have created a new debounce hook here, so we already have a utility function for debouncing, and also there is one from Lodash. Use either of those rather than creating a new one.
The existing debounce function is it doesn't work because I tried it in my local machine. I found it doesn't work with it because I don't know what's the problem here. It takes a callback, but we need to call the debounce function again in the calling in some other components, which leads to like callback.
Yeah,
In this
actually, it's
scenario,
a
I have
higher order function. You can also use the one from Lodash, but that one is a higher order function, so that's why you have to call it first.
okay.
We can
I
check
have
the
shared-
usage, how it's used at other places, so you'll understand it. Either way, you can use the one directly that comes with Lodash. And that should be directly baked in into the data table.
Even the data table has been fixed with the use debounds yoke only. Maybe I shared the Loom link. I couldn't share my screen. I don't know why.
So thank you, Shantil. So hopefully this makes sense what Abid has suggested. And I have also requested Abid's and Yash's review on this PR. So basically you can continue in the
Yeah.
comments.
Okay.
And for those of you who want to take a look, I have shared this PR's link in chat. You can go and check it out. So thank you, Senthil, for your updates. Next update is from either Yash or Akshay. So do anyone of you want to share your updates?
Okay, so I have shared my screen. Actually, this is a small enhancement that we have recently made inside the info model. So previously, actually, you have two models from which you have to publish the you are allowed to publish the catalog item. So one is from the publish model where you can publish the catalog item, and another is the info model from where you can save the catalog data. So we have merged both of those two models, and Akshay make sure we do that. And after that, there are a few issues left, which was one is we are not showing the design version, and validation is also having some issues, and the standard footer we are not using. So I updated just to make sure that we are doing that and we don't have any validation or format issues. So from now you can publish your catalog items from info model itself.
Yeah,
if
Yash, hey, we
anyone
do.
have-
Yeah, a couple of questions. We probably do have a couple of format issues. The color that's being used for the dates, is that intentional?
No, it is not intentional. It is an issue which I
Okay.
also.
Got you. The snapshot that we have there, for the design,
For published design, yes, the snapshot will be shown over here. For not like for public and private design, right now we don't support that, so we will show the pattern ID.
got you. Okay. And for published design, if a snapshot isn't available or if the image isn't retrievable,
In that case, we will show that this as a fallback icon.
right? And the methodology that's being used for fallback is,
It's just a simple condition. If like icon is not available, it is by default selectable. If icon is available, like image is available, then we will show the image.
okay. Understanding that these snapshots, these images are stored within GitHub. On occasion, there'll be some amount of rate limiting that'll occur. So when you go to load meshery.io, it's cataloged. Sometimes you'll see the images and sometimes you won't. And that's in part a factor of the client's bandwidth. And I think a factor in part of GitHub wanting to play ball or GitHub wanting to let you pull that many at the same time. I wonder if the fact that these are stored separate, remotely circumvents our ability to cache them.
Mhm.
Does it?
When we will be using I don't think so. Like
Okay,
when
just,
then we'll
have
like
to-
for
something,
the
something for you to go investigate. Does anyone else know on the call? So a lot of times we'll use RTK APIs, RTK query APIs, caching.
RTK
which-
caching,
Yeah,
yeah.
but like for these images, like they should be cached by the browser. If they have the proper headers, they should get cached, like because the image is getting loaded, so RTK won't help here. So it's up to the browser if it caches these images. I think it should, but last time I think it was caching the images. I will check. And also Yash will check.
Yeah, Yash, if you would take it as an action item to double check on our whether or not what we're expressing for cache settings for, well, these external images. If you go back to the so the copy link, by the way, is there's maybe a couple of issues here. On is Yash a connection? Is Rex on the call? Why is owner bolded, and is that something more special than the rest of the attributes? Also, Yash isn't the connection, so we probably shouldn't show it on a chip. The hyperlink on the right-hand side, nice and all nice, but also not necessarily typical of a typical experience that we have. So not necessarily evident, at least not to me as a long-time user. Something to reflect on, if you would. I don't mean to, I'm not trying to tear this, I'm trying to build this up, by the way. If you go back to the or the dark version or the light version, the one that you had before with Schlock. By the way, if we have headings, we probably want to, put the headings all in uppercase on the field, probably. Here you see the info button as blue. Something I pointed out to Siddhanshu a little while ago. But on the one yeah. Cool. Okay, that was all my comments.
I have fixed that issue. I will make sure that we have proper design for that. Okay.
I had a small suggestion for the copy link. Maybe we could show the share button here with the copy link so somebody can directly share from the info model. I don't know, just a suggestion.
Yeah, I think we can reuse that button if that we are using from the system. It would be much more easier for us to reuse. Thank you.
So can I just add that there's a mock-up of this model that I and Akshay went over. Possibly there are some things you might want to pick from there that could enhance this, because we spoke about how we are merging the publish catalog feature and also the other features on the design cards into one model. So he pointed out those issues, and I think I made some changes that you might want to take a look at. I'll text you in Slack and then we'll figure it out.
Thank you. Do tag me after the lecture synthesis.
If you have the mock-up handy, you might share it.
All right, sure.
Thank you, Yash, for sharing your updates. So coming up next, Rex, this is your item. So do you mind sharing your progress?
All right, sure. Let me share my screen. I've implemented the changes from the last review. I was asked to separate the navbar for cloud and the navbar for the websites, and so that's exactly what I've done. So if this makes sense, then maybe we can have them as variants where we can select which is which. So if we're switching to Meshery UI, for instance, we'll have it like this, in this format. And here we can, for when workspaces, the org switcher is implemented, I'm not sure if it's complete yet. I have not confirmed, but we can also have a switch between workspaces. So how it works is when the organization icon is clicked, then it becomes like an organization in focus. There's no prototype yet, but that's the general idea. So that's for Meshery UI, for Meshery Cloud.
One question on the Meshery UI is are we showing the expanded version of it at how we are showing the expanded version of the org and workspace, or are we not showing it?
Yes. There are modals for that. That's why there's a drop down here. So if it's in this format and you click the modal, the drop down, the modal appears. So the different organizations come up. Is that what you mean? Like the options available?
Yeah,
yes.
I was saying.
Yeah, it's in the Meshery UI file. It's not here. This is insistent, but the modals have already been designed. So I could pick them up real quick.
Do we have any
Yeah, so
other
this is-
feedback or thoughts for Rex?
See what it looks like. So yeah.
Rex, do you have any additional item or like, do you want to talk more about anything else?
Nope, not at the moment. So, I'm still working on the sidebar. I'm having issues with the colors because in the current implementation, these colors are the colors on hover and selected they are quite different from how it is most other places on the solution. So I'm still figuring that out for now. I'll probably be done before the end of the week. Yeah,
Thank you
that's
for
it
sharing.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Rex, for sharing your updates. All right, so next we have item on learning paths from Avani. So I'll quickly check if we have. Yep, so there says on call. So do you mind sharing your item?
Okay, you can open the document there. Yeah, so I'm currently working on deploying Meshery designs under getting started with Meshery. So I think I'm done with everything. The only issue I was facing was the validation and dry run on the validation and dry run on Meshery Playground. So regardless of misconfiguration and everything else, it still shows no errors. So I need those use cases to get screenshots for the tutorial. So that's the only thing that's left. And I've already listed it. I've already set it on Slack. So I'm just waiting for feedback on that.
Yeah, so Avani, like, did you
Okay.
try with any other design, like to test if validation errors and dry run errors are coming up?
Yeah, I tried different designs. So errors only come up during deployment, but for validation and dry run, there are no errors. And then I said something that it shows the error for some time, and then it goes off immediately.
Yeah, sure, I'll check that.
Okay. Demonstrating the issue. All right, let me see if I can share my screen.
Abid, would that be helpful, or is that just kind of a?
I think I will test it myself.
Oh,
Yeah, so thank you, Avani, for sharing your updates. Just a quick like observation, and that is, I think like these will go into the tutorial. So we would want to have the original aspect ratio of these images that you have, the screenshots. So something to keep in mind.
okay, yes. All right.
All right, Abid, you are up next.
So I think before going through the show, I'll quickly give a introduction. So one of the practice that we follow at Meshery is like we like to work with we are being schema driven. So what that means, like before getting into development of some new feature or API, we start developing the schemas first, and using those schemas we programmatically generate the endpoints and also the structs, and for different programming languages that we use, like we use Golang for the back end, we use JavaScript on the front end, and also like Chris was showing, like we use Rego for policy. So we use a few many different programming language, and these schemas tie these together. So we stay consistent between all of those different environments, and we follow these schemas. So in the Golang, we already use the generate structs from the schemas, but what we were missing is like in the UI, we're not taking leverage of these schemas. So in this PR, I have just added support for converting these schemas into TypeScript types that can be leveraged on the front end. So we will stay schema driven and we would have less type errors, obviously. So I've created a new package for these types. So that would be a TypeScript type package that can be used in our JavaScript environment. So there's a PR for that I was sharing earlier. So yeah, this is adding the workflows and others support for generating those types whenever we make a new update and release for these schemas, and then they can be directly imported inside our JavaScript environment. So basically different extensions and also Meshery itself. Right now, there is just the package is not live. There is, I think, a few environment variables missing in the workflow. So after that, this package would be live, and we can start working and using these. Any questions?
Does that mean that
Yeah.
the average contributor to Meshery UI needs to be TypeScript capable?
Yeah, as we bring support of TypeScript to Meshery, yeah, we would like to have more like new modules would be created using TypeScript. So yeah, TypeScript knowledge would be useful. So, but still, like older modules would still stay in JavaScript, and the JavaScript contributors can still work on them. But as we create new ones, we'd like to use TypeScript there because we already use TypeScript in Systent also now. So, it would be better to stay consistent and use it in other projects as well. Thanks. And I had a small proposal that's like, as we already have the open API schema in the schemas, because I think we should also build and publish the API endpoints, the RTK API endpoints that we used from the schemas before itself. So all of the extensions can leverage the same RTK endpoints, and they don't have to regenerate them themselves. And because that adds up on the bundle size if they package it separately, so they can reuse it directly from here, and also the Meshery project itself can use it from here. So we'll be, when we get the OpenAPI schema published here, we can use it and build the RTK endpoints also from here, from the schemas. That was the proposal. Yeah, thanks. That's mostly from my side.
Thank you.
Relevant to this would be great to hear how it is that the project Meshery is on its path to being schema driven in its development. So this is an aspect of that. This is from the perspective of the front end. For each of the constructs, each of the objects that, well, each of the resources that Meshery defines, like a design or a relationship, or a model, a component, those are examples of Meshery resources that are schema backed, which just means they're well articulated in a JSON document that structures them and says that you know that you have a component or a design or a relationship or you know that you have one of Meshery's resources if that resource fits this schema. The idea that these are well defined and that there are many different subsystems within Meshery that touch a design or touch a component or touch a, that they can all then speak the same language or treat those resources in the same way and programmatically validate that each of these resources are valid throughout their life cycle. That's really important, and that's in part what Abid is referring to. This is one of many milestones, though, and so is there anyone on the call that might have a perspective of what those other milestones are? Okay. I do, and I guess since the others don't, I'll continue to drive this area. There is a slide inside of the Meshery architecture deck that talks about the desire for the project to be schema driven, in part, or as I like to refer to it, for how it is that Lee stops pulling his hair out. Because if we're not being schema driven, oh my goodness, it's so easy to misexchange a resource or forget about a property of a resource. And as you're as you're interacting with it in the catalog and you're displaying a design over there, and then you're representing a design over here, or any of the resources, the sheer number of bugs, the sheer amount of hair that has been lost is just, it's tragic. It's a good thing I'm married already. Otherwise, I just never. So it's not about my hair per se. That's what I care about most. But for the rest of you, it is about high quality software that's repeatable, usable, reliable. And if you're going to use a management tool like Meshery, you have to really trust it. It has to be reliable. This is a poor articulation of what those milestones might be and what tools might be used at different phases of development, from conception of a relationship, not a relationship, from conception of a new resource, a new object within Meshery, to its API publication, documentation. What this particular slide doesn't articulate or doesn't necessarily break down is, well, it kind of does. It breaks it down at this JavaScript layer, a couple of front-end layers, a couple of back-end layers, a couple of design phases, or just human design process. But it needs a lot of help. It needs a lot of work. So we will try to make this just a consistent topic, a standing agenda item to help drive forward quality. Yeah.
Thank you, Lee. So I will start sharing my screen. So, yep, so looks like we have 1 minute in hand. So Tarun, do you mind sharing your item quickly? I will check if we have Tarun on call. If we do.
Or we can skip to Suraj and then Schlock,
Yeah.
as these two guys are.
So Suraj, do you mind, sharing your update?
Yes, Vivek. So I will share my screen. Let me know once this is good. Yes, so this is the improvement in. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so this is the improvement in catalog page. So first one is that in the loading state, we are showing no match found instead of showing the loader here. So that one is fixed, and now we can see the loader in case of the loading state. And second one is we have loader button here. On click of that, we are calling one API. So there was no loading state and as well as we didn't implement the disable logic in case of the loading state. So I have implemented that, which will basically, once we click on the button and the API is running, then it will show the loading state with the disabled button. Yeah, so these are two fixes on the catalog page. Yeah.
Any comments? Yeah, so thank you, Suraj, for sharing your updates. We'll be moving ahead. So looks like we are already on time, but I'll just quickly ask, like, is there any important item that we don't want to miss today? So we'll discuss that.
Vivek, can I go? That the second item is quite important.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So inside Meshery CTL is the CLI of Meshery, and it supports various commands. So currently there are a few GitHub issues that are open and that are help wanted. These are the other errors that are occurring in Meshery CTL. So I've listed it down here, and I'll be opening few GitHub issues regarding this. These are all easy and help wanted issues, so it could be the issue that you can work on, and I'll open those issues so you can have an eye. And if you ping, I'll just assign it to you. And these are the issues that we have in Meshery CTL right now. So it could be a good first issue for everyone, or for the person who is new to Meshery CTL.
Yeah, thank you, Slok. So this is really helpful, and it also will be like helpful for us to share these items on Newcomers Call tomorrow. So thank you for sharing these call for volunteers.
Yeah.
I will switch back to meeting minutes. And so this is the end, but before we say bye, I'll be sharing about the community calendar. So I'll be putting the link in chat. So if you want to never miss any meeting that happens in the community, make sure you subscribe to the community calendar where you will get all the meeting details with their timing. And if you subscribe, if you hit this yellow button, so it will also sync the meeting timings to your time zone. So for those of you who want to get an overview on the projects, there is a newcomers meeting tomorrow where we'll hopefully make some call for volunteers and like other things. We'll also try to get you started. So make sure you join that meeting if you have not already. So yeah, so with that said, thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Till then, bye.
Thanks for that.
Thank you, everyone.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.